Hi guys, this is Nia and today I will be painting another version of the pansies as promised, and hopefully you like this one as much as the last one. For this painting here, I will try to vary the temperature of the purple, so even though I'm using the same colors, by just mixing in a little bit more quinn red or a little bit more of ultramarine violet, you can adjust the deepness or the brightness of the purple for the pansies. Because I've previously created a tutorial on this last week, I won't be instructing as much as I will be in the previous video, so if you're new here or you've missed last week's video, I will link it in the description box for you to follow along for a more detailed tutorial if you would like to. And then when you're ready or want to paint this composition right here, you can switch to this video. For this painting, I felt like I paint in a way that is a bit more loose, so it might not look as neat as the previous video, but it's really up to you how loose or how tightly you want to approach this painting. Here I'm using some cobalt violet light, just like in the previous video. I'm going to paint all of the base color or the light purple the same way for all three flowers. I will switch the purple tones later as I paint the center and the details of the petals. So right here I'm going to paint the frilly outlines, then continuing with a clean dry brush to pull and spread the rest of the paint inwards towards the center. However, if you feel like you can get a light enough purple by just applying it normally, you can also do that to your flowers, because we can always build up the outline and the frills afterwards. As long as the yellow will stand out on top of the purple later on as we layer, it should be fine. So as you can see, I just paint the last flower straight up, and I'm just going to show you how I apply the second layer, which is the lemon yellow. In the previous video, I also added a little bit of white gouache. This is up to you. I want the yellow to be a bit stronger on this one. That's why I didn't mix it with the white gouache. But if you would like a softer yellow where it looks a bit more pastel, you can go ahead and mix it with white gouache. As you can tell, because the purple is really nice and light, the yellow still stands out and it creates a really soft blend. And because the last flower that I painted has around the same tint of purple, it should look fine with the yellow on top. It's only if you're uncomfortable with how light you can create the colors that I would recommend for you to paint the outline and then using the dry brush technique and pulling the paint inwards. So here I've added some of the cobalt violet light for the outline, and using the same clean dry brush technique, I pulled the thick purple outline inwards to create a little bit of streakiness from the dry brush texture. These steps that I'm doing might not look exactly the same as the previous video, as you can probably tell. That's because there are a lot of ways you can go about painting these flowers, or painting anything in general basically. So there are a lot of many different styles. For me, when I approach painting anything, I just think about the final outcome and what it'll look like, and I just mix up any technique to create something that I visualize. So you can either use the exact same steps if you're new to watercolors to have a good introduction with a few different techniques. However, if you have a fair bit of experience, of course you can mix it with anything that you're comfortable with painting, any techniques that you've already done to paint these flowers too. For this first flower, I used basically the same color mixtures as what I used in the previous video, so I'll just leave you guys to it, and then I'll tell you a little about the other flowers and how I get the different tones of purple. For this next flower, I added some quinn red with the cobalt violet light, so I get a bright warm purple for the outline of the bottom and the side petals. And then I'm going to continue on by pulling it with a clean dry brush to get some of the textures for the petals. And I'm basically going to do the same for the rest of the purples that I'm going to use for this flower. Instead of just using the mineral violet by itself, I'm going to add a bit more quinn red to warm up the purple. It's up to you how much quinn red you want to incorporate into your mix. The more you put the quinn red compared to the mineral violet, the more pink your flower will look. So just adjust according to what you want the flowers to look like. If you're unsure about the colors on your palette that you've created, you can also swatch it on a scrap bit of paper to see if that's the color that you want. I personally want my flowers to go towards the warm side of purple, so I added the quinn red. However, you can also change this to a cooler temperature purple like the first flower by adding more of the ultramarine violet to your mix, and that way you can create more of a bluish tone compared to this warm purple color. To keep the same tone of purple across the whole flower, I'm going to also add some quinn red to the top petals, but of course this time I'm going to cover the whole top petal with the color, and I'm also making sure that I get a bit of streakiness from the texture of my brush strokes. For this last flower, I want to add some folds so it looks like the flower is facing slightly to the left. So for this, I'm going to drop down the lemon yellow first, and on the right petal, I'm going to leave out some of the base purple color without the yellow to separate the front and the back part of the petal where it's folded. Then instead of working on the sides, I want to define or separate the folds first so I don't forget where they are, considering I don't have any outline for this. So now I'm just going to take any dark purple tone that I want the flower to be, and I'm going to paint the top petals first because that's where I want to add more folds. And for this, I'm going to do the same by leaving out a small part of the right petal with just the base color. So where the fold is, the color of the petal should still have the initial base color, which is the cobalt violet light, instead of the thicker consistency purple. Then I'm just going to continue on with the dark purple outline for the petals while still leaving out the folds so you get even more of a definition as you build on the colors. I'm also going to help it out by painting a slight outline with the light purple color at the bottom of the fold because I feel like the light purple color is fusing with the first flower a little bit too much, so I want to separate those two shapes. For the leaves, I'm going to play a bit with the tones of green. So some leaves I want it to be darker green, and for others I want it to be warmer and brighter green color, just to add some variation since I'm going to be painting more leaves for this composition here. I'm also going to add more budding flowers to fill in some spaces, and you can play a bit more with the growth stages by adding budding flowers that already take some of the purple color of the flowers, and also incorporate some that are still a little bit young so it looks smaller and the buds are also more of a greenish color instead of it being vibrant purple. Okay, so the rest of this is basically the same as what my tutorial is, or how I painted the pansies in the tutorial, so I'll get back to you again once I'm done with this painting. If you find that the pansies you've painted doesn't have a clean definition around the sides, you can also add a very thin outline using a medium to light consistency paint to create a very subtle outline. If your outline looks a bit too thick or too dark, it might make your painting more illustrative or cartoony, so it's also a preference of style. If that's what you're going for, then go ahead and do that. I think I'm pretty much done here. At this point, you can add any more additional elements if you would like to, but I think I can call this one finished. So I hope you enjoyed this one as much as you did the tutorial, and of course learned something new along the way. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you again at the next one. Bye!